Greetings, motorcycle enthusiasts. Today we are going to disassemble the carburetor of the Honda CM185. Let's take a look at some of the tools we will be using. You will need a screwdriver, size 2 Phillips, and there is a link in the video description where you can get one. And if that doesn't work, go ahead and use a regular size 2 Phillips screwdriver along with several regular screwdrivers. You see here. You will also need a thin tip tool and a 7mm wrench as well as a small and powerful flashlight. Check the video description after finishing watching the clip so you can get more information about that carburetor in particular. And here's another thing people often ask, is Carb King making money with this? Well, not enough to get rich and live like Paris Hilton. But we do earn a bit when you buy rebuild kits and other parts using our links. And that allows us to keep producing these small videos and maybe grow a bit. And not to brag, but these are top-tier businesses selling superior quality products, not some junk made in a dubious workshop. Questionable? So use the links. Help us keep all this going so we can all keep these amazing bikes running for years. Let's start with the sliding cover. And you've already removed it. And now we have the carburetor right here on the table. And I assume you've already removed the Bowden cable from the slider. And I've laid out all the parts right here. So here we have the slider with a partial load needle. And if you look here, you can see or recognize a small clip. And now we're going to need our needle nose pliers, with which we're going to grab these small eyelets. I'm going to get in there with the pliers and squeeze these two parts together, and then you can remove the clip very easily. Once you've removed the clip, you can let the partial load needle slide out. And that's it for the top part. And now we can continue with the float bowl cover. The float bowl cover is held in place with these 1, 2, 3 screws. Phillips screws that I'm going to loosen and then remove, and then we'll continue with the next part. Once you've removed the screws, you can lift the cover. But be careful because sometimes it gets a bit stuck and this is how it's going to look. This here is for the overflow. And here you can already see the float bowl gasket, which of course we will need to replace. I'm going to set the cover aside. And the next thing we're going to do is disassemble the float. The float is held in place with this small pin that I'm going to push out using the pointed tool. I'm going to proceed to remove it. I'm going to leave the pointed tool there. And while holding the float, I'm going to take out the small pointed tool. And now all I have to do is lift the float up and out. The float needle is attached to the... Oops. Okay, it fell. Let me show you how to do that again. It hangs from here. The float needle clip hangs from this small protrusion. So just push down from here and then you can remove it. Set the float aside and check that there's no gasoline inside it. It's very important to ensure there is no damage. And now, basically, we only have 3 more things to do. Here is the main jet, which you'll find inside the jet holder, and you can hold it firmly with a 7mm wrench. And then, right here, make sure to use the correct tools. Oh, that was really tight. Go ahead, remove the main jet. So that there is the main jet. And since you're already holding the jet holder with your 7mm wrench, go ahead, loosen it, and remove it as well. And then we still have the jet needle, and this part is going to be, well, take a look here, and then you'll be able to see it. Let me show you. There. Push it down, through there, and in fact, you can use your finger for that. If you have to push the jet needle from above, don't use anything with rough edges, because that can deform the nozzle head. And that will affect your bike's performance. If you look more closely, you'll see that one side is a bit more open. And that's actually the side we're looking at right now. And that's where the needle goes in. And then there's a part with a smaller opening, and that's back here. And that's where the jet holder goes. And I'm going to put both aside. And now we're left with just the idle jet in the carburetor. And it's this one right here. So you can go ahead and remove those, but make sure not to use a screwdriver that's too small, because that could damage the slot, as it's a very soft metal. And here we have the idle jet. There are also versions of this carburetor where the idle jet is permanently fixed and cannot be removed. And last but not least, we have the idle air mixture screw. It's this one right here. And if you want, you can go ahead and screw it all the way in, count the turns, and that way you'll know what the last driven setting was. But after the ultrasonic bath, I would recommend adjusting it to the factory settings. And you can find that in the video description. All right. I'm going to proceed to remove these screws, and then there are a couple of other parts that I'm going to show you. The first small part is this little spring that's on top of that screw, and as for the rest, if it doesn't all come out, then just take a small paper clip and make a little hook. And with that hook, you can simply remove the rest of the parts. And then there's a small washer and a ring, or on top of the air mixture, fuel screw. Yes, and sometimes it's like that, it gets a bit stuck. Alright, and here's the washer. And this is where the small flashlight comes in very handy when we want to take another look inside. And here we have the O-ring. So you have to remove all that, take it all out. And now our little carburetor is ready for an ultrasonic bath. And now we have finished with the disassembly and, folks, as I always say, if you have any questions, comments, requests, criticisms, then type them, on the keyboard, send us an email, and we will do our best to answer your questions. And as always, friends, have fun with it. You can do it and see you in the next video.